Hello and welcome to Plugged In with Di and Warren. Today we will be sitting down with Sioux Hudson Literacy Council's Executive Director Jonathan Baum as we celebrate 30 years in adult learning and literacy and basic skills. This podcast has been produced by the team at Good Learning Anywhere, a division of Sioux Hudson Literacy Council. Our theme song is by bensound.com, and we are your hosts, Diane Altinbalek and Warren Butler. Hey, Warren, how are you?
I'm good, Di. How are you?
I'm great, and I am super excited for today's episode.
Yeah, me too. I was a little nervous though, Diane. I was away for the weekend in Montreal for a hockey tournament, and I lost my voice in the very first game, and it just came back this morning. So I was a little nervous. I definitely wasn't thinking that we were recording a podcast on Tuesday, but here we are. So we're good to go.
I'm glad we're good to go, and I'm glad that we can actually hear your voice. And I'm super jealous that you got to go to Montreal because I am really, really anxious to get traveling again.
You know what? I was a little nervous going, to be honest, but once I was there, everything was open up. Everyone was pretty relaxed about things. It was just nice to be able to, go with a group and go into a restaurant, and the rules weren't too strict, but there was a lot of guidelines that you had to follow, which was fine. Go to a restaurant, you just need to wear your mask, as you walk in, going to your table, but then you could take it off and it was fine. And if you needed to go to the restroom, you just put your mask on and off you go. So it felt a lot better once you're kind of in that environment. It kind of plays on your mind a little bit, but once you're there, it felt pretty good, felt normal again.
That's really awesome. I'm glad that things are starting to feel normal and everything. And I'm really, really excited for when things get back to their full normal and we can kind of get over that awkward anxiety about returning to the way things were.
The one thing I'll recommend though is that if you're driving to Quebec, you might need an alignment when you get back. It seems like the entire province was under construction. It was unbelievable.
I'm used to it. Thunder Bay is under constant construction throughout the entire summer. I got detoured 3 times driving my kids to daycare this morning. So that was all sorts of fun.
Wow. Montreal, hockey. Montreal is one of my favorite cities. And we had literacy conferences there. Hockey, of course, ranks up there and comes back with a husky voice.
Awesome. So for those of you who are listening, that lovely disembodied voice that just came over is that of our executive director, Jonathan Baum. He is heading up our learning center. He is our go-between with the board of directors, and he's just one of the most awesome bosses and hands down one of my favorite people in the whole world. And we're really, really happy to have him here. So welcome, Jonathan.
Oh, thank you. That's quite a line to live up to.
Well, you certainly do live up to it. So since we have you here, we want to spend some time talking about Sioux Hudson Literacy Council's 30th anniversary and a little bit about the journey so far. So if you don't mind, I've got a bunch of questions.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So how did Sioux Hudson Literacy start? Like, what services were you guys offering and so forth?
Well, Sioux Hudson Literacy Council started before I was here, about 10 years, 1991. And the history is a little vague. We've lost the written history of year 1, which was a year prior to being incorporated. We believe that the Friendship Center hosted the Learning Center in its first year. You had to be hosted before you were able to be incorporated. So that would be our local Anishinaabe-Gammak Friendship Center. We can't confirm that. We've asked Trina. Trina Kakakagammak is our longest serving board member. We've tried to confirm that that's where we started. And the whole purpose at the time was for adult literacies to be started around the province and to be able to bring the ability to find lifelong learning to adults who were looking for it, who for whatever reason didn't feel they fit into the traditional educational processes, or didn't find an interest there, or just wanted to find something else to learn.
Great. So what kind of services did you guys offer at the beginning?
Wow, it was kind of a variety. But one of the things I distinctly remember, Monika Orskahowski, I say her name a bit wrong, excuse me, but she was the program coordinator at the time and had actually moved the Learning Center when it went independent into a bookstore with a coffee shop with family literacy, and actually had families coming in reading to their children, as well as drinking coffee and borrowing books. So I think that may be where Chapters started. I'm not sure if she had copyrighted it at the time. She's since passed away, and still remember her work and her fondly for for both her person and for what she started here in town.
That is really amazing and unique. So it sounds very, very different from how it looks in the services that are offered now. So there's quite the evolution there.
Yeah, so it moved on from that. There were some concerns with the ministry about a bookstore, and even at that time, the internet was starting up, and the concern of bookstores was real, whether they would continue to exist or not. And the path was changed more back to traditional literacy, adult literacy, back to the goal of finding and looking for employment and providing the different services that would allow people to be able to complete their job searches. That, although that part was added, the lifelong learning was maintained as far as trying to make sure that adults could actually follow their interests and direct their interest into what they wanted to learn, and then kind of match that up to what the ministry desires were as well. Right now, we've gone full into blending with the digital online services as well. A lot of the adults coming in are either in social media, need to have social media, are being trained by their kids what social media is and how to use it, and want to catch up. Communication is, although it's worldwide, it's also a huge part of the Indigenous population, both from the verbal and written word, but being able to talk to people and being in constant communication with different people. And we've seen that with social media. The desire with our northern communities is to always be in contact whenever they can. And so we do a lot of assisting with that as well.
Yeah, we actually wanted to ask about Sioux Hudson's northern context. And, do you feel that we have any unique challenges? Well, Good Learning Anywhere is running all over Ontario, but, our head office and the Learning Center itself that our foundation comes from is in Sioux Lookout. So we were just kind of curious about, do you feel that there's any unique challenges that we've faced and had to overcome being where we are geographically?
Well, it is interesting because we have the Good Learning Anywhere online, and we have the mortar and concrete office here in town, that it does both provide challenges and provides ideas and direction to the digital part as well, or to e-channel, to Good Learning Anywhere. Sioux Lookout has been a transportation hub for the North. There's estimated 30 to 50,000 Indigenous people who have access through Sioux Lookout or through their airports. 20 to 30 communities who are locked in, don't have a direct road access or an all-weather year-round road access. And so Sioux Lookout sees a lot of people who are commuting and who will drop in for short times, long times, or are just passing through. And so through word of mouth, the Learning Center has become well known as a place to stop in, a place to find internet access, coffee, tea, sometimes cookies, places to meet people outside. We quite often have people in groups meeting outside either during or after office hours. And we simply promote that and encourage it, and become a spot that people can feel welcome, either to come in and dialogue with us or to have their own conversations and meeting places outside. So that's some of the unique aspects of it. It's hard for me to know what's unique because being part of the North, I'm used to, we've had the odd moose in town, they have the odd bear in town. David has every year sees wolves in his backyard, different things like that. So that provides a natural uniqueness. We're a float plane base, so we see float planes all the time. We're an M&R base. So during fire season, helicopters are going all the time. The smoke you've heard about, we've been covered with smoke for a month.
Yeah, Thunder Bay too.
It's wild. It's come down to Toronto now. So yesterday there was a weather advisory that came down to Toronto because of the smoke from up north.
Yeah, I hope we get through it soon. We could really, really use some rain up here to help us get through that. Then I was actually thinking about, Evan's told us, so Evan, our guest from the previous episode from Do IT, was pretty excited about setting up the outdoor learning center. And I was actually thinking, if Thunder Bay smoke is this bad, how is Sioux Lookout and how is this impacting our outdoor learning center? And, you know, the pandemic made it rough enough getting people access, and we had to get kind of creative with some of our delivery. And now that we've got some promise of opening back up, the fire season starts.
Yeah, we were talking about that today. We just have started to let the 25% that we're allowed, which is 1.25 to 2 people into the building at a time. And also discussing, we've been setting up a sun shelter tent, even though there's smoke out. We've been through the 30-degree weather as well. And so we do set out a sun tent, benches, tables. We have park benches out there for people to sit at. And that's in constant use. And so we dialogue with people through the door as they ring the doorbell. We had to put up a wireless doorbell so we could know when people were at the front door. And we still continue to offer coffee and tea through the door, and sometimes cookies. I'm not going to promote the cookies too much because we'll have a lineup. And Evan and Noreen are often out the front door talking to people sitting outside. We've been able to set up registration, take laptops out there, put up a hotspot hub so that people can access the internet through their own devices, which is very interesting. How many people have their own devices? Even the different street people community that we have, good portion of them have devices, and if they don't, they're sharing with someone they know. And so our website or our internet connection becomes a valuable tool. So we leave that open. Someone wrote in the dust on one of our windows our password, so that people walking up, there's the learning center. They have an open internet. The password's on the window.
That's awesome.
My bet is it was David.
So creative. So resourceful.
That's incredible. Like, just the positive social impacts that has the potential for in your community. So now I've got to ask this, and I apologize because it wasn't one of the talking points I'd written down for us, but I'm curious. Was that social engagement aspect an initial goal with Sioux Hudson Literacy Council?
Well, it has been since I've been here, which is almost 20 years. So the 10 years before, knowing how the coffee shop bookstore was set up, I would assume that it was. The Indigenous community that helped set it up and are still part of our board, that has always been an aspect from the board to continue to promote being an open, welcome place for anybody to be able to drop in, and our board continues to support that. They continue to support us providing anything that will help encourage people to come and meet here. And I think it's a reflection of the Northern and of the Indigenous culture in the area, particularly the different Ojibwe people that I know have really promoted the social aspect and the welcoming aspect and the sharing aspect between people. So that is, as recently as our board meeting we discussed. So yeah, it is an important, vital part of what we do is being part of the community, and from there, allowing people to decide what areas they're interested in, and then support them in developing those areas that they're interested in. Much in contrast to saying, this is what we want you to learn. It's more, how are you doing and what are you interested in, and how can we help you get to what you do want to learn, or what's important to you. And some days it is like, what's your password? That's what's important to me. Mm-hmm. I need to get on the internet. I need to, for instance, contact my mom, and she's wiring me some money, and I need to know when it's getting here.
That's amazing. This is the first organization of this type that I've ever worked at, but throughout my youth, I had actually accessed friendship centers, employment services, and so forth. And what was really, really special to me about coming to work here was that the community engagement aspect of it was much higher. It was much different. It was less of a service provision context. So it's really, really lovely to hear that that was always a goal and that you weren't occupying a bookstore just for the sake of having convenient real estate. So that makes me really, really proud to work here. And I very, very much appreciate you and the board and everybody for that. But now it also makes me wonder, with this sort of uniqueness that SHLC embodies, and I apologize for the acronyms and everything, but I think I've said Sioux Hudson Literacy Council enough times in this podcast that people should know what I'm talking about now. It sounds like there might have been a lot of challenges when it comes to being so set apart from the norm. So tell us, what are some of the things that you overcame that led us up to 30 years of success?
Wow, that's a long topic. See if I can hit some key points. The Learning Center itself is unique in that we're a standalone literacy, which means that we don't have other programs that we're getting funding for. So if you look at the YMCA, they're running 20 different programs. They're accessing fundings from numerous different ministries, and they're trying to tie and blend them all together. And there was a point in time with one of the previous governments where that was important, to have one-stop shopping, put everything in one center and get everyone to go to that one center. And that kind of faded with the realization that not everybody is comfortable in one center. Not everybody can access one center. Not everybody has a car, means of transportation, or can walk if the bus doesn't stop exactly in front of the center they want to access. And so that being just a standalone literacy allows us to focus exclusively on how we can engage people and determine what they want to do and support them in that, instead of always having visibly in front of someone, well, we can send you next door to this place and we can send you next door to that place. It's more, would you like to access a place like the employment services? Would you like to go to the friendship center? Would you like to go to what used to be the Boreal Center? And it allows us an option to do that. The drawback, of course, is then that we're dependent on maintaining a single focus.
Mm-hmm. But it sounds like it fosters good relationships, though.
That is, and I found one of our original applications for distance learning, distance delivery before it became e-channel and Good Learning Anywhere. And one of the key aspects was mentoring. And that actually goes back to, I believe, the first proposal in 1991, the concept that adult mentoring is much more successful for the adult than simply letting someone know they can access a certificate program and then directing to that program. To actually have someone that they can be in constant contact with, discussion with, someone who can say, hey, you're doing good at that, or, you know, if you need to take time to be with your kids, go ahead and do that. Don't feel bad about it. One of the unique things in our areas is go to one of the hunting competitions that the Indigenous communities have. You know, that's what you have on your list. Go ahead and do it. Mm-hmm. And so that mentoring, I believe, goes right back to the start of the organization. That's the amazing. One-on-one contact with people. It also is a reflection. Very early on, I had a number of knowledge keepers really press home the whole concept of face-to-face learning, and the Indigenous concept of face-to-face learning, and the need for it. And then the discussions did morph into how the internet actually provides a kind of a halfway stepping stone between learning from the distance and making it sort of face-to-face. Of course, this was before Zoom and before all the good FaceTime programs. And I think the internet has really evolved to where you can continue a type of face-to-face learning that really connects with people.
That's awesome. So I have another question about relationships here. The working with the staff here has been unlike anything else, any other working experience that I've had. And I was just wondering, what tips do you have for other EDs to foster good relationships with their staff and between their staff?
Well, I think the key for staff and also our learners that may have already been coming through, which our board really promotes, is the respect of individuals, and to respect in the broader sense, not simply acknowledging that someone exists, but acknowledging that a person, an individual, has unique makeup and unique characteristics that makes them who they are, and to be able to respect that and promote that in each individual, and to provide that individual the opportunity not only to recognize those things, but to pursue them or to develop them. And I think I ran into that early on with eChannel and going into the digital world, is I knew right away, so I won't know everything. I also won't be right about everything, and I'm not right about everything. I wrote down a line somewhere about an individual. Their idea may be right simply because it's their idea, something along that line. And so that promoting and supporting another individual's idea and allowing them to pursue it, regardless of whether it's your idea or what you thought should have happened, it may be worth pursuing simply because the other person thought of it. And I think that also is a type of respect of another individual, is allowing them to develop and design and attempt things on their own, or from their own perspective, and then support them in doing that, and not simply saying, dictating, this is what you're doing, whether you like it or not. And kind of like what we refer to our learners and being learner directed, letting the learner make decisions about what they would prefer to learn at that particular time, and not building a wall or a cage that they have to, not a cage, but a system that they have to stay within because you've developed it and designed it because you thought you knew what was right for them. And I think it applies just as well to staff. It allows that aha moment, of that learning moment that they used to be part of adult education philosophy. There's the aha moment when someone realizes something. Well, I go through that with staff ideas, and you as staff come up with things and go, oh, that's a great idea. It never would have occurred to me, like starting a podcast.
Wow, that's really, really awesome. So basically just taking the approach that learning is lifelong, and even though we're educators, we're always learning too. Warren, you've been kind of quiet over there.
Yeah, no, I'm like totally engaged in the conversation and just soaking it all in right now. You know, in my role, I get brought into a lot of different projects, and I'm lucky enough to get to work, with our staff on a variety of different things. And I'm kind of very similar with John's thoughts, in that if one thing I've learned very quickly early on in my career has been, if I think I know everything, I've already lost. Like I can't pretend that I know everything. And that's one of the great things I think about Sioux Hudson Literacy Council, is that we have a wide range of subject matter experts. There's people that have a lot of different skills and experience in a lot of different areas, and it just makes things, I think, a lot smoother. And if I was to put myself in a learner's shoes, I think it would feel very comfortable. I think I'd feel very safe, and it's just a very positive environment to be in. And I think when you remove barriers and people feel comfortable, and there's that sense that, okay, you know what, these people know what they're talking about, but they're allowing me to give some input. I think that's when you really start to see some progression, and people are learning. And that's when you really start to see the learners kind of, progressing and developing their skills a little bit more. So it's been, very interesting for me just to see the learners evolve that way.
That's awesome. So I'm gonna kind of change gears a little bit here, and I think it's time to share some warm fuzzies about SHLC history. So I'm just kind of wondering, what are your favorite moments? What are your favorite moments in your time here, or stories about the last 30 years? This is definitely a question for both of you. It's okay if your favorite moment was hiring me.
Might be number 2. That's creating memories of cosplay and pirates bars and
oh my gosh.
Thunder Bay trips. One of my favorites is, of course, the staff retreats, but one of my favorite moments was when Sherry came with us to a staff retreat as our as expert on FASD, or to share about FASD. Was that at Blue Lake?
That was up at Blue Mountain in
Blue Mountain.
Collingwood.
Blue Lake.
And
A little difference.
it was incredible. I honestly, Jonathan, we had a support team meeting this morning, and we were actually talking about that workshop with Sherry.
Oh, really?
And yeah, we were talking about it. And I was telling the team, I was like, you know what? That is probably one of the workshops I will remember for the rest of my life. It was the most impactful workshop I think we've ever been through. For me, anyway, that was definitely a highlight. And then the second one, while we were actually in Collingwood, was the Nerf gun fight.
Yeah.
In the meeting room. That was a lot of fun.
You know what? I actually missed that retreat. And every single time I hear people share stories about it, I just wish that I could build a time machine and go back and experience it. But it's funny, other than the retreat when you guys came to Thunder Bay on my mat leave, where I actually got to stop in and participate, I've actually never been on a staff retreat.
Oh, no. Wow.
The timing has not worked out for me.
Put that on the priority list there, Warren.
Oh, yeah, we're looking into it now that things are starting to open up.
Plan around Diane's calendar.
Okay.
And plan for Vegas.
One of our board members was in Vegas during the shooting, so no.
Oh.
Yeah, the Nerf gun war came right after Sherry's presentation. I warned her about it. It actually the idea comes from Sherry, from her organization, when they were visiting one of their support organizations. And I remember Nida shooting Warren in the head from point blank range. I remember our board member Trina hiding behind, she was sitting at the table with her laptop trying to make sure she didn't get hit by Nerf guns. And I remember this hotel staff peeking in to see what was going on, staff running all over the place. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. That was one of my favorite moments for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I've got lots of them.
Oh my God.
I still remember the very first learner that I met. We were at a conference. I want to say it was in Barrie, and his name was Martin. And I got to meet him for the first time. And, you exchange a lot of emails and conversations online, and then just hang out with him in person. It was just awesome. Like, it was just so good to see him. He was so happy and doing so well with his life and moving forward. Yeah, I remember that like it was yesterday. That was probably close to 10 years ago. And it's just awesome sometimes just to meet the learners face to face. We have a lot of learners that come through our programs, and we don't always get those opportunities. But when you get to know people, and it kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier about building that community, and then just to see learners kind of going through the program, and their lives are changing, and maybe we've had a little part to do with that. It's extremely rewarding.
Yeah,
I love seeing where the learners go afterwards, because every once in a while we get like a follow-up or a success story, and every once in a while one of our former learners ends up working for us. Isn't that right, Jonathan?
Well, yeah, we've had a number of different people. We had, you think of our famous Linda Wright, was a volunteer, and then became an instructor, and then our director of distance. Had Kelly has been working for us for a decade, I think. And then it brought a flash of memory back when Kelly and one of her friends, Liza, was here, and they were in the back in the computer lab. But just when texting and chatting had started up, and they had 8 computers going, and they had 4 or 5 people they were chatting on each computer. And I just remember Liza walking back and forth, checking each reply and typing. And I don't know how she kept that many conversations going. But yeah, we've had a lot of interaction with different people that then end up providing details for us. I'm not sure if you meant something else. You'll have to prompt me.
I was actually talking about Kelly because I was under the impression that she had actually started with us as a learner and then started volunteering and kind of evolved into, for a long time, one of our staff that we just couldn't do without.
Yeah, she's back with Liza. They were both learners and working on the computers, and she came in for years. And talk about a lifelong learner. Kelly has just taken an enormous amount of different programs. Usually in the last few years, she took condensed programs. One of them was business kind of accounting program where they were running a online shoemaking factory in Taiwan or something, and she was comparing the data and showing how you had to make decisions based on the data you were receiving from an international company, and just continually interesting things like that. She also became our drum host through Kelly. We now host a drum that she's in care of, and we have that here. We don't have it mounted or in presentation form, but we have it in her care for us. And so she's also provided us a direct connection to the local Indigenous community as well.
Awesome. So I hope she doesn't mind us talking about her, without her here and everything. But I was actually wanted to ask about Lois. So Lois is one of our board members at Sioux Hudson Literacy Council, and she has an award named after her that we give out every year. So I was actually kind of curious if you could tell us a little bit of Lois's story, if you think she wouldn't mind.
No, I don't think she minds. Most of her story has been public, especially when we named the award after her. Lois was a single mother when she started attending here. I don't know the exact reasons, other than one of them was she did want to learn and acquire more skills and knowledge and get into the workforce, and which is what she ended up doing after, I think, a couple years, and not just with us, but with also other organizations. And then she ended up working part-time at the local fresh market, and then ended up going full-time there and spent, I think, 10 years working there. And during that time, just because of all the different sessions and courses she completed with us, and because she had attained her goals of being able to move into a place where she could independently support her family and make her own decisions and have complete control of direction of her life, that the Lowest Grade Achievement Award was named after her, so that we could not only honor her, but honor other learners who were able to do the same kind of achievements.
So the things that she did here impacted multiple areas of her life. So not just her
Mm-hmm.
employment and her independence, but she's just such an amazing person. Like I've actually, she's one of those people you feel privileged to meet when you actually meet her in person and to have a conversation with. And it's incredible, the amount of confidence that she has in our program, that she's had all of this success and stays involved with us as a board member.
Yep, the last meeting with Warren and Linda presenting the part of the program where we have, I believe it's 5 women in partnership with the Hamilton Friendship Center who have completed their course there. She asked if she could actually write a note to each of them and put it in the part of the gift bags that we're sending to those ladies. And so she was very excited that, first of all, that the organization that she's on the board of was actually working with the Friendship Center with a group of women who had, very closely she got very closely identified with. She was just clapping and saying, can I write them a note? Can I write them a note? And just her excitement was very motivating in itself. And just the fact that we had a program going that she related and was so excited about, it was a privilege for me to know that you as staff, our staff and our organization had been able to follow that closely to what our, at least one particular board member had envisioned 30 years later. It's just amazing.
Well, it's like everything goes in circles, right? Like with the program, sometimes we'll work with different communities and programs. It takes a long time, but eventually it kind of comes full circle. And in the in the Indigenous culture, we talk a lot about circles, and that's a great example of, again, things coming full circle for Lois, which I think it's phenomenal. It's incredible.
The board member really loves the staff retreats too, and it sounds like they've all been to more than you have, Diane. So that's they're already asking when the next one is. That's one of, the favorite things is when we were finally able to have a staff retreat and being able to get everyone together. There is a connection that happens face to face that I don't think you can quite capture in a Zoom meeting.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that. That's why I used to love going to conferences and so forth, is we would, run into not just our own staff, but people from partnership organizations and people that we've worked with. And it's nice to give a hug or shake a hand or share a story or laugh together over a meal.
Or make pottery together, or a painting, or, take what kind of boats were there? A boat ride out to the Sleeping Giant and
I think
crawl
you
up the
guys took a
side.
Zodiac. I was way too
Yes, that's
pregnant
right.
to go
Yeah.
on that trip, unfortunately.
Wow.
So 30 years. So Jonathan, do you have any advice for LBS organizations who are looking to have that kind of staying power?
Well, it's amazing how many LBS organizations have been around for 20 to 30 years in Ontario. And I'm not sure what their reasons are, but for us, definitely your organization really needs to be able to reflect your board members, and your board members need to be able to reflect the priorities of literacy if you want your literacy organization to be able to continue. And so to have champions, find yourself a champ. And yet our board, all of them completely support the Learning Center and eChannel and Good Learning Anywhere and what we're doing. And they often tell me the first priority is support your staff and their families. Don't limit it to, supporting your staff, make sure they have enough hours to work. They want it to go beyond that. They do want it to look at as a community, that we're connected, that we're in this together. And so they often promote that to me. And so having a board that's not only just showing up at meetings, but promoting the relationships among the staff with the knowledge that also then reflects in the connection with the learners. And then they really promote the supporting the learners and finding out ways that we as an organization can reflect what the learner needs and desires are, and be learner directed, even if you have to take some risks with your funder and with the ministry and say, look, you asked us to be learner directed. This is what learner directed means. That leads me to call out to Jan Graham, a former board member who actually took the ministry on and put them in place, basically the local consultants, and said, look, this is what's going on in the organization, in the community. These are the learners that are being helped. The database and supporting the database isn't everything. You also have to know the learner stories. You have to know the learners' lives, and you have to be able to incorporate some of that. And I think as an organization, we also have to reflect our community. And in our case here in Sioux Lookout, our community has to reflect both the local Ojibwe community, the local Oji Cree, and the local Cree communities up north. We are in Anishinaabe Nation. They have definite view of life that reflects the northern view of life, that reflects through our board members from their communities from the north. And that ends up reflecting in what we do as an organization. And I think that other organizations need to be able to reflect their community in the broader sense as well as the individual sense. And we've seen that happen. Probably one of the most interesting was when we had the Good Learning Anywhere distance conference in Thunder Bay. As an organization from the board, from Ontario Native Literacy Council at the time, one of the reflections was to provide a gift to everybody attended, very similar to the Ojibwe wedding gifts. And so that's what we did. It was a lot of fun to give gifts to everybody that was attending.
And I'm sure that everybody that received those gifts was very, very happy to receive them as well. Who doesn't love presents? We're just about ready to wrap up, Jonathan, but I do have one more question, and that is, what are your hopes for the future of SHLC and Good Learning Anywhere?
Yeah, that's the question I didn't develop a lot on, is where to go next. We definitely both here as a local community center and as a eChannel Good Learning Anywhere digital or online center want to continue to reflect our community. I think strongly reflect blended learning, being able to develop where an individual, and I think we are going there, an individual can come in here and use tools, or an individual can join a cooking class with us. ideas I haven't thought of. And there's ideas we won't think of until they occur. But I'm really excited that staff are trying these new ideas online. They seem new and different to me. I talk to my children and my grandchildren, and they're growing up with them. They're going like, that's just normal. But to be able to have an online community where people feel, oh, I'll drop in there and enjoy what I have, or I'll come in and I'll share with you what I've been doing, because we have learners who are experts in niche areas, and they can come in and share, and we can share microlearning. And I see that as a future both for us and for online learning, is a sharing environment where we can manage and bring in learners and allow them to guide us in what they know and what knowledge they have. Of course, in that future, we have lots of funding. We have a national and an international impact. Warren's connecting with some of our support organizations that are international. That would be fun to be providing some international context as well. That doesn't give you a very specific future to look at, but kind of a broad general terms of being able to maintain an ability to interact with the development of the internet, the digital world, with the people who are currently growing up with it. And I think just being able to retain that, the relevance with what's going on and where the internet is going and staying with it, I look forward to doing that, seeing what happens, what's occurring. I think the pandemic we've been through has helped clarify how ingrained online learning is and how important online learning can be, how important lifelong learning is. And I've been reading the original document on eChannel when it was distance learning, the original, the startup organizations. And just in the year 2000, before Facebook and before Twitter and all these social media, there was a man who had this vision that the internet could be used for adult learning. And, here it is. It's not even 10 years later. Is that right? 20 years later? It's like it's always been here.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, Jonathan. This was a great conversation. Keep doing what you're doing and, go with the flow, keep evolving. And thank you for being the leader that you are. I think I speak for all of our staff when I say that we really appreciate it. And please pass our thanks on to the board for everything that they do to keep us supported. That's about it for us. Warren, did you have anything to add?
Yeah, just a couple final thoughts here. I know we covered a wide range of topics, and everyone here got a sneak peek kind of behind the scenes of a little bit more about Sioux Hudson Literacy Council and what we're about. But seeing that it is our 30th anniversary, I just want to let everyone know that we have updated our website. So it's www.siouxhudsonliteracy.com. And I highly encourage you to check it out. It'll give you a little bit more insight into the programs and services that are offered at the Learning Center. And what I hope that you'll also see is that as you're going through the site, you'll notice that it's a very warm, welcoming, and safe place to learn, which I think is important for our listeners to understand. So if you have a chance, check that out, siouxhudsonliteracy.com. And thanks again, Diane, for coordinating this. Thanks, Jonathan, for being here. It's been great.
For sure.
This is a 10 out of 10.
So for those of you who are listening elsewhere in Ontario, and shout out to our newfound American audience, which I noticed popping up in our analytics since we've been distributing on Apple Podcasts. If you are interested in our philosophy and our approach to adult learning and literacy and basic skills, but you are not in the Northern Ontario area, you can feel free to check out goodlearninganywhere.com, which is our distance division as well. If you want to stay up to date on news and information about both of these programs, you can follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/goodlearninganywhere. And remember to like, subscribe, favorite our podcast on your favorite podcasting platform. We're available on a variety of them, and the list is getting too lengthy to list here. And if you have any questions or feedback for us, please feel free to email us you can reach out to us at Diane, that's DIANE, at SiouxHudsonLiteracy.com. That's SiouxHudsonLiteracy.com. So thank you everybody for listening, and we will see you again in a month.